Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Closing Bell on the Stock Movers Report. The companies making moves at the close of U.S. trading with Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, Romaine Bostick, and Scarlett Fu.
Let me take you through some of the gainers that I've been looking at today, starting with BKNG Booking Holdings. I love a Delaware-based holding company here. This owns Booking.com, Priceline.com, Kayak, and the rest. Obviously, we're focused on the way the travel companies are dealing with the economic uncertainty and the kind of contours of the trade war. JP Morgan maintaining it with an overweight, raising the price target there from $53.60 to $6,000, so one that I've been following this afternoon.
All right, one other mover here on the day is Five Below. They dropped about 0.8% in the regular cash session. The share is moving even lower now in the after-hours trade after its earnings just crossed the wire. The company said the first quarter EPS did come in at about 75 cents a share. That is a beat, so that is certainly good. But here's your guidance going forward. For the second quarter, the company says it expects a range on EPS of 45 cents to 57 cents a share. The street on average was looking for 58 cents. So the high end of that range is below the average of street estimates. As for sales and revenue here, comp sales, let me just go back to the full year here. They are providing a full year sales figure, net sales 4.33 to 4.42 billion. That actually, believe it, is actually above its previous guidance that it had given of 4.2 to 4.33. So you add it up all together, you had a beat in the quarter, but the guidance going forward seems to suggest some weakness on the bottom line, though they do seem to be guiding a little bit higher on the top line.
A lot of interest in those trendy fund and affordable finds at Five Below, it seems. Let me turn to another stock I've been watching today, but also over the course of the year. That's Netflix. We saw UBS raise its price target on Netflix to $14.50. UBS citing secular trends and competitive dynamics remaining supportive of Netflix's ability to drive stronger monetization and operating leverage. And just to give a little bit more color here, Netflix up 40%, nearly 40% this year. And I'll stick with companies based on the West Coast. Do Meta as my last gainer here. Saw a price target hike from JP Morgan a day after a company announced a partnership with Constellation Energy. Talked a lot about that yesterday, but that 20-year deal that it brokered for nuclear power going forward, and I think kind of encapsulates this company's interest, doubled down interest here in using AI and using AI for advertising in particular.
Okay, let's get to some of the decliners. CrowdStrike dropping over 5% today. This is a cybersecurity company that projected revenue for the current period that trailed estimates. They see sales for the second quarter will be as much as $1.15 billion, just slightly missing estimates of $1.16 billion. This, of course, was the first financial update since the company announced it would cut about 5% of its global workforce later in the trading day. We also got a headline out of this company that they said the DOJ and the SEC sent inquiries on firm accounting. The firm, though, said that they are cooperating with the inquiry, but that stock, again, down over 5% today. Dollar Tree was another company with a warning out today. They warned investors that their second quarter profit could be down as much as 50% from a year ago as it deals with tariff-related costs. Dollar Tree, not to be confused with Dollar General. Dollar General generates about 80% of sales from food and consumable goods, which are less reliant on imports. Dollar Tree gets almost half of its revenue from those categories. It's more reliant on goods from other countries, so they are more exposed to that hit.
I do want to get to some other earnings. We just got through Five Below. Let's turn our attention to MongoDB coming out with their results. They boosted their full year adjusted EPS forecast. They also beat estimates. Their first quarter adjusted EPS came in at $1.06. The estimate had been for just 67 cents, so quite a beat there. You take a look at their full year adjusted EPS. They see it between $2.94 to $3.12. Previously, they had seen $2.44 to $2.62. So quite a big beat there. And you're certainly seeing that in the after-hour movement in the shares, up about 9% at the moment there.
Yeah, this was a much-needed bid for MongoDB. This stock was down 14% year to date through today's close. So we'll see how those gains translate into tomorrow's trading session. But just back on the decliners, my last one is not a stock. It's an ETF. Oh. Katie's going to like this.
Go off.
I did this for us. XLE. This is an energy stock ETF. Energy was the worst performing sector in the S&P 500 today. We saw stocks across that sector retreating along with crude oil prices after Saudi Arabia is now pushing for more supersized output hikes from the OPEC Plus group of producing countries. Marathon Petroleum, Valero were some of those names that were dropping. And of course, that ETF down, closing the day almost down 2%.
All right, we have to talk, of course, about what we saw in yields, because we came into today, yields were higher, but only fractionally. It looked like we weren't really going to get any real movement in yields, and that changed in a big way right around 8:15 a.m. New York time on the back of that ADP report, and the decline accelerated once we got to 10 a.m. In that ISM services report. We basically went from yields higher to yields lower, down about 8 to 9 basis points between the 2 and your 10-year, and of course you see that 30-year yield dropping about 10 basis points, a big revision. We should also point out in forecasts in the swap market for what the Fed may do next, pricing in the possibility of at least about 3 cuts this year potentially, and now potentially more certainty for a cut by September.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.